Hey traders, TG Watkins here. It's January 27th, Monday when I'm recording this, and I'm sure everybody has seen and heard and felt the news today. Something about DeepSeek, basically Chinese AI coming out and really turning kind of the whole AI, power, nuclear, chips, all that kind of stuff, the whole space just on its head. So there's been a lot of damage out there. We'll kind of go through some of that first, but this is a good day to actually look and figure out what is strong. And there are still some names. We actually bought into a few names today, and I am still seeing some others that I have interest in. Now, if you guys go look at my X or my Facebook or YouTube like that, I did put out a market update yesterday, so Sunday morning, and I said, hey, this market needs to pull back. I said you should very much expect that the market is going to pull back, mostly because if you look here on the S&P, not only were we at the previous all-time high, we had really pulled away from moving averages, and this was just really too high. And we started to see Friday that the market started to come down. So I was expecting a pullback. I was not expecting this news to come out about the whole AI situation and really grease the wheels on a couple different things like that. So it's like, definitely got the pullback right. Maybe this is like a rip the band-aid off situation where, this pullback that I was expecting to have happen over the course of a few days is now happening like one day. And but it seems a little bit localized, as I said, in kind of AI chips, that kind of stuff. So if we look at this is the S&P. We definitely filled the gaps, like all of that. I mean, if you look right back here, we filled all of the gaps. So in one sense, that's been fixed. That's good. And you can also see we fixed the gap between price and the moving average. So that's good. And we have the potential that if this can hold, we can continue to move up from here. Let me actually show you this. If you look here, you can see that this has been the downward channel, and we broke out from the channel, and look at this, we perfectly came back and tested the top side of that channel. Now, I don't know what's going to be happening over the next couple days. We have the FOMC as well, so this is definitely a moving target and kind of an area of flux, so just be careful out there. Today we did exit a lot of positions because, well, they were getting hit, and we didn't know if they were going to go down a little bit or go down a lot of it. And so it's easier just to get out and ask questions later, and then if they turn back around, we can get back in. So we were in protection mode, and then looking at the stuff that actually held up today, we got into a few positions since they looked pretty good. So let's just kind of talk about that. If we look at nuclear, since this is one of the things that I had been talking about on my social media platforms and stuff like that, and we've been doing well. I said I had an option up here. I sold half of that on Thursday, which I'm very happy I did, because this certainly got crunched. Now, it's still profitable, but yeah, that's pretty uncomfortable. So we're going to have to see if this comes down and actually finds some support. It came right down to its previous high. So for now, I'm going to look at this and say, doesn't look too bad. It does need to recover, and we're going to have to see. This move was kind of overdone. I was also expecting a pullback. I wasn't expecting for the rug to get pulled out underneath it. So again, we're going to have to let the dust settle and see where this goes. My goodness, this is kind of one of those crazy days on how these things kind of happen like this. SMR, we did get out of this one because you don't know what's going to happen. So it's easier just to get out, and then we can get back in later. We got out basically just above break even because, I mean, it's given so much of this back. Again, I was expecting a pullback. I wasn't expecting this much, and so it's better to play safe than to try and argue this and see what happens later, okay? So if this sets up again, we can hop right back in. I know what we're looking for. Same thing with OKLO, huge move. I mean, this was pretty nice. I mean, talk about a whipsaw too. Last week we had Trump talking about with Sam Altman and Larry Elder and the guy from SoftBank and all that kind of stuff, and saying, oh yeah, we're going to need all these energy needs, and we got all these nuclear names just moving up like this. But now with this whole DeepSeek thing and saying that they may not need as much power or energy because it consumes less, that's changing the whole narrative or what's going on here with some of the nuclear names, okay? Now, big picture, I still think we need nuclear. It still seems like this is a really good theme. It still seems like we need a way to power our economy and just everything else. And if nuclear is kind of our stepping stone into anything else in the future and to get off fossil fuels, then I think it's still necessary. Now, maybe the rate of adoption or maybe the future price or all of these things about that have to be refactored if this Chinese AI thing is actually true, then that's why this is getting knocked down. So we're going to have to let the dust settle and see what people who run the numbers think that this stuff is actually worth. Then we kind of come over to SMH. This went from being bullish and breaking out. Yes, we needed a pullback, but now to actually breaking down and breaking lower. So this is now something that we don't know. I don't know where this thing is going to go, because if you look at the monthly and weekly, it went from perfectly flagging into the weekly 50 and on its way to making new highs to now it's below the weekly 50. Now, granted, this is Monday and this is a weekly and monthly chart, so we can't, these candles are not closed yet, so we don't know, but that's some pretty good damage. And if this continues to stay weak, we are now underneath the monthly 10, and so that's not good. So we have like a few more days until the month closes, and we're gonna have to see where that thing ends up. But yeah, that went from doing great to not doing great, and part of that is because of Nvidia. So Nvidia went from looking like it was bull flagging, wanting to continue to move up, to suddenly getting hammered, because basically this means that they're not the only player out there. So their dominance, this might be the end of their dominance, is basically what it's looking like as far as this big breakdown. So that's what that looks like. And if you kind of look, if we go back to the S&P, this is kind of the thing that I'm looking at. So the S&P pulled back to about where I thought it would be, but I thought it was going to take all week to do that. So not surprised about where it went, just how it went. But then if you look at something like the RSP, this is the equal weight, look how well this thing is holding up. This is actually great. Look at that thing. It actually ended on a high. So the RSP is positive. This is the equal weight of the S&P. And we can even look at the IWM and through here. And you can see this also pulled back to where I figured it was. This is doing what I thought it would do as far as pulling back. And it also kind of ended on a high note. So the rest of the market's actually looking pretty good. It seems to be highly concentrated in nuclear and AI and semis and Nvidia. And if this thing about the whole AI chip thing and all that kind of stuff is in fact true, and it changes the narrative, well, we could be looking at market cap redistribution. So if Nvidia is no longer the biggest game in the town, then all the money could be starting to come out of Nvidia. It could start coming out of other things like ALAB, I think it was. Yeah, I mean, look at that. That's pretty rough. So, there is the idea that maybe they can recover. Again, I'd rather just get out and we can ask questions later. I wasn't in this name, but this is an example that we could see a reallocation of funds because, maybe the whole AI thing, maybe that bubble, not that the bubbles popped, but, that maybe how much money people thought they were going to invest into it and where it was going to go, maybe the narrative's kind of changing. So stuff like that. And then even Bitcoin got hit, Bitcoin miners got hit, partly because some of these things have energy kind of wrapped up into them. They're not just Bitcoin miners, they have to deal with energy production. So Irene, look, going into the weekend, Irene was on a high. It looked great. And then this thing broke down pretty hard. It is at a double bottom, so we'll have to see if that holds. But again, if you're in this and you're just like, oh, I'm out, that's totally fair. These higher time frames, if you look here, overall, this was looking pretty good. So we're going to have to just see how bad this gets and if it's really pretty rough. Because you can look at something like Hut. This is also a crypto miner, but again, they do power generation, and maybe the whole narrative about needing as much power is just kind of not there. And so, yeah, these things really fell out of bed. They got the rug pulled out from underneath them. So we're going to have to see if these things come back or if this actually means a little bit of something. So that's been rough. We were in MSTR through MSTU, and we got out break even on that. Actually looks like it rebounded a bit. So again, hey, we don't know how bad some of these things are going to get. So I rather just take these things. You don't want a winner to turn into a loser. So we got out on that. We can get back in if it starts to shape up again. But then something like APLD, this was a name that, I was thinking looked really great. This thing was looking amazing on the monthly and weekly and all that volume that was coming into it. And then with the news, and this is also, APLD is very closely tied to NVIDIA because NVIDIA is a big investor in them. And this is a data center build out company. Well, if this whole AI thing kind of gets changed, maybe they don't need as many data centers, and maybe the rate of adoption, or how many they build, all that kind of changes. And so you can see this one just got crunched. So we exited this one because, again, you don't know how bad this is going to get. I mean, if you look at this, APLD kept sinking, whereas for now, MSTR bounced. Okay, you don't know what's going to happen in a day like today, so you get out and you ask questions later. So yeah, something like that we had to move on from. We are, AUR, not too bad, but I was kind of looking at the, the narrative of what's happening out there. I thought, this thing's still not really looking good. And so if it's not doing what I want it to do, then I'm going to get out, and we can, get back in later if it sets up. But right now it's failing these moving averages. The Moxie indicator still couldn't do it, and it's starting to kind of break this lower trend line. So I really wanted it to kind of hold today, and it didn't. And all this news, I was like, let's get out for break even, and then we can hop back in later if things are going to be working out. So that being said, there are still some really good names that are holding up. We took a few trades, as I said. We actually added to a few trades too. I'll just show you. Let's see. Genie is kind of the one that we're looking at. You can see this one. It's up for the day. So took a big dip, came back, and it's been holding for a while. So we actually added to that name. Yeah, we were kind of moving and grooving today. So today was a lot of action. I hope you guys are doing okay and surviving out there. You never know when you're going to get news like this, and it's just kind of interesting that, yes, we were expecting a market pullback. I was not expecting the news, and when stuff like that happens, you just got to protect yourself, okay? There's no sense trying to fight the market. If something's not doing well, just get out, and then you can save your money for something else later, and that's what we did, okay? So we repositioned a few things. We added to a couple things that are, look at this. Doesn't even care that the market dropped today, okay? It's up. And so that's kind of the thing that we're looking for, and we want to make sure that days like today actually help uncover strong names, and then you start piling into those names, because most likely this is probably just going to be a dip in the market, considering the equal weight of the S&P is actually still pretty good. So hopefully you guys are doing well. If you guys got run over today and need some help out there, come on over to the Moxie room. As I said, we were very active today, and I think this will actually add some clarity going forward. And remember, we do have FOMC, so just kind of laying low a little bit until we get that figured out too. So we should hopefully see how things develop in the next few days. All right, guys, thanks again. We'll see you at the next one. Hey, TG here with Simpler Trading. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like or comment below. Also, make sure to subscribe and click that notification bell so you can stay up to date with my market analysis. Or you can join my free newsletter with the link in the description. Good trading, and I'll see you at the next video.